What's up everyone? Alex here. Before I begin, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you for beating Tales of Arise. That was quite an adventure, wasn't it? Great characters, awesome combat, and a memorable story to boot. And of course, if you actually platinumed the game, even more congratulations are in order. Admittedly, I'm still working on mine, and I'm even thinking about restarting the game and playing it on my actual public account, but there's a lot of games coming out, so that might not happen anytime soon. If you haven't finished the game yet, what are you doing here? Pause this video, put this on your watch later list, go finish it right now. But for the people who are watching this video and are brand new to this series, you're probably wondering, like, in the entire 25-year history of Tales games, which game should you play next? Admittedly, I'm not quite well versed in the Tales series, but I know 3 people who are. I'm pretty sure you've seen their channels at some point too. But enough preamble. Let's kick this video off with the Tales game featuring a boy and his dog.
Hey, how you doing? My name is ZaffreRevolution, but just call me Zaffer. I've been a huge Tales fan for years now, and as a matter of fact, it's my favorite video game franchise. So it's a bit surreal to me that Tales of Arise is, well, it's here, it's out, you can buy and play it right now. To be honest, it still hasn't sunk in. But what should be more surprising is how freaking well it's sold. 1 million copies in its first week. Some AAA companies may lead you to believe that these are baby numbers, but this is a huge deal, especially with a series as somewhat niche as Tales. We were just celebrating a collective 24 million copies sold across the entire series, and now after just 7 days from the newest entry's release, we've bumped that number up another million. So with this in mind, it's fair to assume that this is many of you all's first rodeo, right? First off, welcome to gaming's finest. But second, what took you so long? There are so many games here just waiting for you to discover them, to the point where it can be kinda overwhelming. But fear not, I have the answer to where your next destination in this series lies, especially for those who found themselves more invested in the gameplay side of things. You and I already have a lot in common. After all, many mechanics spread throughout Arise felt shockingly similar to my personal favorite entry, Tales of Vesperia. The normal hit to art chaining flow, slaying enemies with those climactic finishers, learning arts mid-battle, primarily synthesizing your weapons, and even the skill system in some regards. All of these aspects took me to the mindset I thought I'd only experience while playing this glorious game. And as such, I find it to be a great next step in your Tales journey after Arise. Now, I should note that Vesperia is not for the faint of heart. Its combat system is one of the most complex and in-depth one in the series, arguably the most in those regards, but the game will only teach you the basics. It's up to you to learn the most effective ways to utilize its 9 party member cast, and it's up to you to piece together how the more advanced techniques and mechanics work as you progress through the game. And if you're not into it, then you're just not into it. But if you are up for the challenge, the ways in which Vesperia rewards you for getting those mechanics is simply unmatched. This is a game that grows with you. As you progress through the game, the more skills you get, the more fun the game will become. Not every art flows seamlessly between one another, but figuring out which ones do and expressing yourself with unique combos you thought of on your own ends up feeling that much more euphoric. This was something I felt Arise was good at, making it so that you have to put in some thought to which arts you equip, so not only could your party members chime in to keep the hit count going, but so you could lift your own weight as well. And this has taken that philosophy to the next, more challenging level. Sounds kinda complicated, but it'll be second nature when you play the game. Maybe I'm just bad at putting it into words, I don't know. But I do know that you should know this. The way you kept up with weapon crafting in Arise, that's weapon synthesis here, and it's so ridiculously expansive and important that if you keep up with it, especially in Act 2 when it grows to an astronomical degree, then the combat will click that much faster. You'll always be learning new skills, always have something to work towards, and always have to think about which skills you want to equip on all of your party members. Is that not a natural step forward from how the gameplay in Arise presented itself? Getting taught the bare minimum of how every resource worked and leaving it to the player to fill in the gaps and figure out the rest for both equipment, progression, and learning skills? That's the flow of Arise, and that's the flow of Vesperia. A game that rewards skillful play, encourages exploration outside of where the game tells you to go, has a laser focus on its characters, and is insanely replayable with all of its secret content both during the main campaign and after the fact. It's a lot to figure out and take in, so odds are that you're gonna miss some stuff, lots of stuff. But every Tales game was made with the assumption that you're not gonna find everything in one go, with Vesperia being no exception, so fight that urge to use a guide. Get excited that should you choose to replay it, there's so much more game to learn about and fall in love with. Something that should be celebrated, right? Again, learning Vesperia is not going to be easy, but perseverance, hard work, and dedication will not go unnoticed, making it not just a learning process, but a rewarding one. Besides, Arise wasn't that easy either, but you did it, you're here, and it felt great, did it not? To all of my fellow gameplay buffs, this is the next destination without question.
You can find links to his social media accounts and YouTube channel in the description of this video. The next game in the Tales series we're going to talk about is a game that I actually got for free on the PlayStation Plus and the PlayStation 3. Go check it out.
Hey guys, it's JayRPG from JayRPG Gaming. Backlog Battle asked me to recommend a Tales game after finishing Tales of Arise. I would say I'm a pretty big Tales fan. I have tattoos and things that are a little crazier than that. But what should you do? Okay, so you finished Tales of Arise. You've got your massive collector's edition, and you love the statue. You loved the game. What's next? What Tales game should you jump into? If this is your first, and it probably is for a lot of people. Tales of Xillia is my favorite game. I've said that a bunch of times now, and I don't think it's the best game ever. I don't think it's the best JRPG or anything like that, objectively speaking, if you can even do that, but it is my favorite game, and there's a reason for that, and that's the characters. So if what you loved about Tales of Arise is the characters and the character interactions, the cast, that sort of thing, Tales of Xillia absolutely should be on your radar to play, because I think Tales of Xillia probably has the best cast and character set of any game ever. Tales of Berseria, for example, has a great cast of party members. The main cast of party members is probably the best in the series, but Tales of Xillia has a great cast of party members. It has a great cast of villains. It has a great cast of anti-heroes. It is just so great. Like, my favorite characters from Tales pretty much all come from Xillia, almost. All of them come from Xillia. And Gaius, Agria, Miller Maxwell, they go on. And it's even got my favorite mascot, Tipo. I know people hate Tipo, but he's great. So the only problem with Tales of Xillia is that it's stuck on the PS3. Now, if you happen to have the Tales of Xillia PlayStation 3, this isn't a problem. But for most people, especially in the West, PS3 is out. It's been out for a long time. We hope that it gets a port or a remaster or something at some point, because it's hugely underrated. It's underrated even in the world of Tales. So you should play Tales of Xillia if you want a battle system that's actually pretty close to Tales of Arise in many ways. Like, Tales of Arise is different, but it takes a lot of cues from Xillia to begin with. The party interactions, the skits, all that kind of stuff is top-notch in Tales of Xillia, and I really enjoyed the story, despite the sort of second half being quite a bit rushed, but that's sort of documented that's what happened. It was a bit rushed. And if you like Xillia, you can always jump straight into Xillia 2, which is a direct sequel. So that's it, play Tales of Xillia, and that's all I've got. See you later, guys.
Thanks, Jay. You can find JRPG's social media and YouTube links in the description of this video. This next game doesn't really have a true hero in the traditional sense, and it actually features one of my favorite set of characters in Tales history. Go check it out.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Santos, a fellow YouTuber and avid Tales enthusiast. I've been a longtime fan of this series for about 15 years, and as a result, I've learned a thing or two about it along the way. When thinking about which game to recommend to those that are hot off of finishing Tales of Arise, my mind kept coming back to a personal favorite, Tales of Berseria. One of the reasons that came to mind is its accessibility. Given that it's available on PS4, which is backwards compatible with the PS5, as well as it having a PC port on Steam, this makes a title readily available to most people with little hassle. Something else that came to mind, especially in relation to Tales of Arise itself, is movement during combat. While it's not one-to-one, the way you control your character in Berseria is most similar to Arise than any other entry. The vast majority of Tales games use a two-way movement system, wherein the player can only move left or right in relation to the opponent being locked onto. This, of course, is not the case in Arise, and neither is it in Berseria. For anyone that might find the old method of movement confusing or intimidating, Berseria could be an easier title to jump into as a result, even if the combat itself is very much its own beast that requires a different learning curve. Battles in Berseria are centered around art trees that are mapped onto the face buttons, and unlike Arise, there are no normal attacks. It's all arts, all the time. That being said, something that is a carryover is that each character has a unique and specific ability that they can utilize regardless of their art layout. While the combat in Arise is flashier and more kinetic, there is a technical aspect to Berseria's combat that I think some will find very appealing. That being said, I think the biggest appeal of this entry is its writing. Tales of Berseria contains one of the best cast and stories in the whole series. The main characters of this entry in particular are of note because none of them feel like typical JRPG archetypes. Velvet, the protagonist, is solely out for revenge and is actually seen as the villain by the world at large. Aizen is a swashbuckling pirate, Rokuro is a demon, while Majilu, well, words just don't do her justice. In fact, the only characters that are of a more typical archetype would be Laphicet and Eleanor. That is until you consider that they originally worked for the opposition and were forced to travel with the group under dubious circumstances. Speaking of which, most RPGs tend to put these parties of characters together by having them already be friends or establishing the common goal of taking down the main antagonist due to moral obligations. Contrastly, in Berseria, these individuals are together more so out of convenience and for their own self-interests, rather than any pre-existing familiarity, the greater good, or any sense of justice. This in turn creates a very unique and interesting dynamic between the party members that shifts throughout the course of the story, and oh my, what a story it is. With a great sense of pacing, build-up, and payoff, remains thoroughly engaging throughout, coupled with superb theming. With a playtime between 40 and 50 hours, this game offers a meaty adventure that doesn't overstay its welcome. If you're itching for a truly great story with a darker edge to it, coupled with a lovable oddball cast, you really can't go wrong with Tales of Berseria.
Thanks, Daniel. You can find links to Daniel's social media and YouTube channel in the description of this video. Thank you very much to Zafre, JayRPG, and Daniel Santos for sharing their expertise in their favorite Tales games. But I know that there are more experts in Tales games in our community, so here's what I'm asking you to do. Post your recommendations for newcomers in the comments below, and let's talk about it. There are a ton of games in the Tales series spanning its entire 25-year history, and I want to hear what your favorites are and what you would recommend to new fans of the series. As always, thank you so much for watching and being here with me today, and I hope to see you in the next video.